Welcome to Lead Smarter, the podcast where we go beyond management theory to explore the human aspects of leadership that textbooks overlook. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Dyson, and I am dedicated to transforming how you lead by focusing on the critical currency of trust. Today, I am diving into one of your most requested topics: how to have difficult conversations that strengthen relationships rather than damage them. Drawing from my 15 plus years of leadership experience and insights from top organizational psychologists, I've seen firsthand how these challenging moments can either make or break trust. Difficult conversations are unavoidable in any meaningful leadership role. But what separates exceptional leaders from merely adequate ones is their ability to transform these potential minefields into opportunities for growth and deeper connection. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll share why most difficult conversations fail before they even begin, a proven framework for structuring feedback that builds trust. You can adapt specific scripts for your own challenging conversations, real-world examples of transforming conflicts into stronger relationships. So let's get started with actionable advice you can implement immediately, no matter your industry or team size. Why do difficult conversations often fail? After studying over 200 difficult workplace conversations throughout my career, I've identified three consistent patterns that derail these interactions from the start. First, leaders enter these conversations with a truth mindset instead of a learning mindset. They believe they have all the facts, their interpretation is the only valid one, and their job is simply to deliver this truth to the other person. I call this the truth bomb approach, which immediately creates defensiveness. I once coached a tech executive who couldn't understand why his feedback sessions always ended in conflict. When I observed his approach, it was clear he approached each conversation as if presenting irrefutable evidence in a courtroom, rather than engaging in a dialogue. Once he shifted to a learning mindset, the dynamics changed completely. Second, leaders focus exclusively on the problem, rather than balancing concerns with care for the relationship. Trust erodes quickly when someone feels your primary goal is to point out their flaws, rather than help them succeed. Remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And third, poor timing and context. Having a sensitive conversation in a hurry, in a public setting, or when emotions are already running high, dramatically reduces the chance of a positive outcome. I've seen well-intentioned feedback completely backfire because it was delivered in the wrong environment or at the wrong time. So how do we do better? I propose a framework that transforms how we approach these critical conversations. The Trust-Building Conversation Framework. The Bridge Framework. 5 key elements that transform difficult conversations. B. Begin with mutual purpose. Start by establishing that you both want the same outcome, even if you disagree on the path. This creates psychological safety and alignment. R. Reflect on impact, not just intent. Acknowledge how actions affect others, regardless of intentions. This demonstrates emotional intelligence and empathy. I. Invite dialogue, not monologue. Make it clear that this is a two-way conversation where both perspectives matter. D. Deliver observations separately from interpretations. Distinguish between what actually happened, the facts, and what meaning you assign to it, your story. G. Generate the next steps together, not unilaterally. Co-created solutions have much higher buy-in. E. Express commitment to the relationship and ongoing support. This reinforces that the conversation is about improvement, not punishment. Let me illustrate how this works with a common scenario. A team member who consistently misses deadlines. Here's what it typically sounds like without the framework. John, we need to talk about your missed deadlines. This is the third time this month you've been late with deliverables. Everyone else manages to get their work done on time. What's going on with you? And here's the same conversation using the Bridge Framework. Begin with mutual purpose. John, I'd like to talk about project timelines because we want our team to deliver high-quality work on schedule. Second, deliver observations. I've noticed that the last 3 project components were delivered after the agreed deadline. Third, reflect on the impact. This has caused our clients to express frustration and has required other team members to rush their portions. Fourth, invite dialogue. I'd like to understand your perspective on what's happening. Finally, generate next steps together. Perhaps we can identify what's creating challenges and find solutions together. Finally, express commitment. I'm bringing this up because your contributions are valuable, and I want to ensure you have what you need to succeed here. The difference is remarkable. The first approach lacks self-awareness and empathy, two critical components of emotional intelligence. The second approach demonstrates both while still addressing the performance issue directly. Here are some specific difficult conversations that leaders might run into. I want to share scripts for 3 common difficult conversations that you as leaders face daily. For example, performance issues. First, mutual purpose. Heather, I'd like to talk about the Johnson project because we both want to deliver excellent results for our clients. Next, the observations. The client satisfaction scores from the last 3 deliverables have been consistently below our benchmark of 8 out of 10, with scores of 5.2, 6.1, and 5.8. Next, reflect on the impact. This has led to the client requesting additional calls and expressing concern about whether we're the right partner. Fourth, invite dialogue. I'm curious about your perspective on these results and what you think might be contributing to them after listening. Heather, based on what you've shared, it sounds like there are issues with both unclear expectations and resource constraints. Finally, generate solutions together. Heather, let's identify specific solutions for each. What if we created a detailed approval checklist for the expectations piece that both teams sign off on before proceeding? Heather said, "Yes, I want you to know that I'm committed to helping you succeed on this project." I said, "Let's check in again next Thursday to see how these changes work." Then I asked, "What additional support might you need from me in the meantime?" Our second example is delivering peer feedback. This example is useful for those situations where you need to give feedback without positional authority, like with cross-functional teams or digital collaboration environments. Sam, do you have a few minutes to talk about our presentation workflow? I think we both want our team presentations to be as impactful as possible. During yesterday's client meeting, I noticed that some of the data slides had different formatting than what we had agreed upon in our prep session, and 2 product features were presented that had yet to be approved for public announcement. Sam said, "I felt caught off guard, and I saw that the client seemed confused about what was actually ready for implementation, now versus future roadmap items." I said, "I'm wondering what led to those changes after our prep session. I appreciate you explaining your perspective." Sam, would you be open to exploring how we might handle last-minute changes in the future so we can both feel confident in what we're presenting? I really value our collaboration, and I think when we're aligned, we're an incredibly effective team. John said, "Yes, it'd help if we had a quick final review 30 minutes before client meetings." Navigating conflicting priorities. My final script addresses one of the most common leadership challenges: conflicting priorities. Leaders face this daily, especially as they navigate digital transformation initiatives. Hi, Raju. I'd like to discuss the resource allocation for the Q3 initiatives, because I know we both want to maximize our team's impact this quarter. I see that the marketing automation project has been scheduled to run concurrently with the customer research study, with 3 team members assigned to both projects. Raju said, "Based on our capacity planning, this creates a 20-hour per week deficit and puts both project deadlines at risk." I then asked, "What are your thoughts on how we should prioritize these initiatives? It sounds like we both see value in both projects." Raju asked, "What if we looked at staggering timelines, and we start with customer research in July, which then informs a more targeted marketing automation project beginning in August? I'm committed to accomplishing both objectives this quarter." I said, "Yes, let's present this revised approach to the executive team together and make sure we're advocating for realistic timelines." Here's a quick review on handling emotional reactions. Now, these examples are wonderful when everyone stays calm, but what about when emotions run high? How do we handle tears, anger, or defensive reactions in our increasingly digital workplace, especially when they happen through a screen? This is where many leaders panic, but emotional reactions are a natural part of difficult conversations. Here's a simple approach that works both in person and virtually. Acknowledge the emotion without judgment. I notice this conversation seems to be bringing up some strong feelings. Offer space. Would it be helpful to take a short break before we continue? Normalize. It's completely understandable to feel strongly about this. Refocus with care. When you're ready, I'd still like to find a way forward together. The key is to neither ignore the emotions nor make them the entire focus. Acknowledge. Provide space if needed. Then gently guide back to productive dialogue. For someone who's defensive, one of the most powerful phrases in my leadership toolkit is, "I might be missing something here. Help me understand your perspective." This shows you're open to being wrong and values their viewpoint. The biggest shift in having difficult conversations happens when you stop viewing them as confrontations and start viewing them as collaborations. When your genuine intent is to understand and improve together, rather than prove yourself right, everything changes. Your tone, language, and ultimately, the outcome. At Lead Smarter, we're committed to empowering leaders, project managers, and teams to thrive digitally by integrating emotional intelligence, effective communication strategies, and practical leadership approaches. Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring leader, each episode provides actionable insights you can implement immediately. Don't just lead. Lead smarter, better, and with heart. Until next time, remember that your hardest conversations can become your greatest opportunities for building trust if you approach them with the right mindset and tools.